The Grand Williams mansion in Ikoyi, Lagos, buzzed with excitement. For 6 years, Benjamin and Mia Williams had prayed, fasted, and visited countless doctors, hoping for a child. Now, their prayers had been answered. Mia lay on a plush sofa in the living room, cradling their 2-week-old son, Nathan, wrapped in a soft blue blanket. The baby's tiny fingers curled around hers as he slept peacefully. Benjamin, a tall, commanding man in his late 40s, stood beside her, smiling proudly. "I still can't believe he's here," Mia whispered, gently rocking the baby. "After everything, God has truly blessed us." Benjamin placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "Yes, he has. And I promise you, Mia, I will do everything in my power to make sure nothing happens to him." Their home was filled with joy. Friends, family, and church members had visited daily, bringing gifts and celebrating with them. Even their domestic workers, Eric, Sandra, and Paul, had smiled and congratulated them. But beneath those smiles lurked something sinister. Later that evening, in the dimly lit staff quarters behind the mansion, Eric, Sandra, and Paul huddled together, whispering. "We can't keep working like this forever," Eric, the driver, muttered. He was a wiry man in his late 30s, his sharp eyes darting around to make sure no one was listening. Sandra, the young and seemingly sweet nanny, glanced at Paul. "But kidnapping a baby, Eric? Are you sure about this?" Paul, the cook, a stout man with a scar on his left cheek, scoffed. "Sure? Do you know how much these people are worth? If we play this right, we'll be rich overnight." Sandra hesitated. "But what if they don't pay? What if we get caught?" "They will pay," Eric said, his voice low and firm. "They waited 6 years for this child. That woman cries over him like he's made of gold. They'll do anything to get him back." Paul nodded. "Exactly. And with Benjamin's political connections, we can demand a ridiculous ransom. 10 million naira, maybe even more." Sandra swallowed hard. "I don't know." Eric narrowed his eyes. "Think about it, Sandra. You're barely making anything as a nanny. You deserve better. We all do. This is our chance." After a long silence, Sandra finally nodded. "Fine, but how do we do it?" Eric smirked. "I have a plan." The plan was set in motion 3 days later. It was a stormy night, the heavy rain drumming against the windows of the mansion. Mia had just put Nathan to sleep in his crib. She was exhausted, her body still weak from childbirth. She barely noticed when Sandra brought her a cup of warm tea. "Here, ma'am," Sandra said sweetly. "You should drink this. It'll help you relax." Mia smiled weakly. "Thank you, Sandra. You're always so kind." She took a few sips, unaware that the tea had been laced with a strong sedative. Within minutes, her eyelids grew heavy, and she slumped against the pillow, fast asleep. At the same time, Eric moved quietly through the hallways, his footsteps light as a feather. He had disabled the security cameras earlier that day, erasing all traces of their movements. Paul stood by the back door, making sure no one would interrupt them. "Hurry up," he hissed. Sandra carefully lifted baby Nathan from his crib, her heart pounding. The baby stirred, but did not cry. She held him close, whispering, It's okay, little one." They moved quickly through the servants' exit, slipping into the darkness of the rainy night. The next morning, Mia woke up with a jolt. Something felt wrong. She looked around the room, her mind foggy. Then she turned to the crib. Empty. Her heart stopped. "Nathan!" she screamed, scrambling out of bed, her body shaking. She searched the room frantically, pulling back the curtains, looking under the bed, as if he could have simply rolled away. Benjamin came rushing in. "What is it? What's wrong?" "He's gone. Nathan is gone." Mia sobbed. The entire mansion was thrown into chaos. The workers were questioned, the security guards interrogated. But there was no sign of the baby. Sandra, Eric, and Paul were missing. Benjamin's fury was uncontrollable. "Find them," he roared. He immediately called the police commissioner, a close friend. Within hours, every police station in Lagos was alerted. Roadblocks were set up, airports were watched, and an official reward of 5 million naira was announced for any information leading to the child's safe return. The news spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, in a rundown apartment in a hidden part of the city, Eric paced the floor, furious. We need to get the ransom and leave this country immediately. Paul frowned. How? Every police unit in Lagos is looking for us. There are checkpoints everywhere. Sandra sat in a corner, clutching the baby, her hands trembling. Maybe we should return him. This is too much. Eric snapped. Are you stupid? We can't go back now. We just have to be smart. Paul sighed. We need to lie low, at least for a few days. The battered old bus rattled down the long, uneven road leading out of Lagos. Inside, three figures sat in tense silence, their faces shadowed by fear. Eric gripped the edge of his seat, his eyes darting from side to side as the vehicle moved. The newspapers were already reporting the baby's disappearance. The police had checkpoints everywhere, and every passenger was being scrutinized. Paul let out a deep sigh, wiping sweat from his brow. We can't keep running forever. We have no choice, Eric whispered harshly. If they catch us with the baby, we're dead men. Sandra, sitting beside them, clutched Nathan in her arms, her heart pounding. The baby let out a soft whimper, his tiny fingers gripping her shirt. A lump formed at her throat. We can't just throw him away. Eric's eyes flashed. And what do you suggest? Walk up to the police and say, oh, sorry, we stole this rich man's baby, but changed our minds. Sandra swallowed hard. She knew he was right, but the guilt was unbearable. They traveled for hours, moving from one bus to another, avoiding crowded places. Finally, in the dead of night, they arrived in a quiet village far from Lagos. It was a poor settlement, with cracked roads and houses made of worn bricks. Eric stopped at a deserted alley. A rusty dumpster stood in the corner, next to a broken street lamp that flickered dimly. This is where we leave him, Eric said coldly. Sandra's hands tightened around the baby. No, we can't leave him here. He's just a child. He'll die. Paul stepped forward, his voice firm. Sandra, we have no choice. This baby is a ticking time bomb. If we get caught, we'll rot in prison. Tears streamed down Sandra's face as she reluctantly placed the baby in a small wicker basket. She wrapped him in the last clean blanket she had, whispering, I'm sorry, little one. I'm so sorry. Nathan's tiny eyes fluttered open, his innocent gaze meeting hers. He didn't cry. He simply looked at her, as if sensing the finality of this moment. Sandra pressed a soft kiss to his forehead before turning away. Her heart shattered as she walked off into the darkness, leaving the baby behind. The three kidnappers disappeared into the night, carrying the weight of their crime on their shoulders. The sun had barely risen when Olivia James, a frail woman in her late 30s, trudged along the dirt road carrying a basket of firewood. Her face was tired, her eyes hollow from years of struggle. Life had been merciless to her. Just 2 months ago, she had lost her only child, a baby girl named Hope, to an illness she couldn't afford to treat. The pain of that loss had carved a deep wound in her soul. As she walked past the dumpster, a faint whimper stopped her in her tracks. She frowned. What was that? Listening closely, she heard it again, soft, weak, but unmistakably a baby's cry. Her heart pounded as she rushed toward the dumpster. Her breath caught in her throat when she saw the basket sitting there. Trembling, she knelt down and peeled back the blanket. A baby boy, no more than a few weeks old, stared up at her with wide, curious eyes. His tiny hands reached out, his lips parting in a soft whimper. Tears filled Olivia's eyes. She covered her mouth, trying to suppress the sob that rose in her throat. Oh my God! She looked around, searching for whoever might have abandoned him. But the street was empty. Whoever left him here wasn't coming back. She hesitated. Could she take care of him? She had barely been able to feed her own daughter before she passed. How could she raise another child? But then, as she looked into the baby's eyes, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Slowly, she scooped him up into her arms, holding him close to her chest. His small body was warm, his heartbeat steady. She made her decision. From now on, she whispered, your name is Noah. She wrapped him in her shawl and carried him home, unaware that she had just saved the lost heir of the Williams family. Back in Lagos, Mia Williams was falling apart. It had been 3 months since Nathan was stolen. 3 months of sleepless nights, of screaming into pillows, of waking up with the agonizing thought, maybe today I'll get my son back. But that day never came. She had become a shadow of the woman she once was. The vibrant, elegant wife of one of Lagos' wealthiest men was now a broken, paranoid, and bitter soul. The once pristine mansion now felt like a prison. Her trust in humanity was gone. One evening, she sat on the edge of the bed, staring blankly at the window. The curtains swayed with the evening breeze, but she didn't move. Benjamin entered the room, his heart aching at the sight of his wife. "Mia," he called softly. She didn't respond. He sighed and sat beside her. "I know you're hurting. I'm too. But we have to." Mia suddenly snapped, her voice sharp. "Don't tell me what I need to do, Benjamin." Her eyes, once full of warmth, now burned with anger and grief. "I lost my baby. Someone we trusted took him from me. And you think I should just move on?" Benjamin clenched his fists. "No, Mia, I don't expect you to move on. But you can't keep destroying yourself like this." She let out a bitter laugh. "You don't understand, do you? Every time I see a baby, every time I hear a child cry, it feels like someone is ripping my heart out." A tense silence filled the room. Then, her voice turned cold. "I don't trust them anymore, Benjamin. Any of them. The maids, the drivers, the cooks. They're all the same." Benjamin frowned. "Mia." She stood up abruptly, her face hard. "From now on, I don't want any domestic workers living in this house. No one. If I see even a hint of disloyalty, they're gone." Benjamin exhaled. He hated what she was becoming. But he understood. "Fine," he said quietly. "Do what you must." But deep inside, he feared that the Mia he once knew was gone forever. Years passed, and Noah grew up under Olivia's love and care. Though she was poor, she did everything to give him a good life. He was a bright child, always eager to learn. But as he got older, life became tougher. One day, at 18 years old, Noah sat beside Olivia, watching as she coughed weakly. Her once strong body had grown frail. "Mama, don't worry," he whispered, holding her hand. "One day, I'll make enough money to take care of you." She smiled weakly. "My boy, you already take care of me." But Noah knew it wasn't enough. He made a decision. At 20 years old, Noah packed his bag and left for Lagos to look for a job. "I'll come back for you, Mama," he promised, kissing her forehead. She watched as he disappeared down the dusty road, a strange feeling stirring in her heart. Fate was calling him back to his real family, and he had no idea. The Lagos skyline stretched before Noah, towering buildings glistening under the golden evening sun. The city was fast-paced, loud, and full of opportunities, but for someone like him, a young man with no formal education, finding a good job was like searching for a needle in a haystack. Noah stood on the roadside, clutching the small bag that carried all his belongings. He had traveled from the small village where he was raised, determined to make something of himself. His deep brown eyes scanned the streets as people hurried past him. He had already visited several places asking for work, but all he got was the same response. "No qualifications? No experience? Sorry, we can't hire you." He exhaled deeply, rubbing his tired face. "I just need one chance," he muttered. Just then, he overheard two men talking near a food stall. "You hear say the Williams family day find new gatekeeper?" One of them said in pidgin English, taking a bite of his food. "In? That rich family for Ikoyi?" the other asked. "Yes, nah. The last gatekeeper mess up. Madam pursue him immediately." Noah's ears perked up. "Excuse me," he said, stepping forward. "Did you say they're looking for a gatekeeper?" The first man glanced at him. "Yes, but they're Madam, Mrs. Williams. No be person way get patience she no day joke with workers." Noah straightened his shoulders. "I don't care. I need a job. Where can I apply?" The man gave him the address, shaking his head. "Nayarwala if she no like you." Noah didn't waste time. He thanked the men and immediately set off to find the Williams mansion, unaware that he was walking straight into the home of his biological parents. The Williams mansion stood majestic and intimidating, surrounded by high fences and guarded gates. The air smelled of wealth and power. Noah arrived at the gate, adjusting his worn-out shirt before knocking. A stern-looking older man, Mr. Patrick, the head of security, opened the small gate. "Yes. What do you want?" he asked, eyeing Noah suspiciously. "I heard you're looking for a gatekeeper, sir." "I need a job," Noah replied politely. Mr. Patrick studied him for a moment. The young man looked strong and humble, but he also looked desperate, and desperate men would do anything to survive. "Do you have experience?" Patrick asked. Noah shook his head. "No, sir. But I'm a fast learner, and I'll work hard." Patrick sighed. He knew Mrs. Williams wouldn't tolerate mistakes, but something about Noah felt different. "All right," he finally said. "Come in." Inside the grand mansion, Mia Williams sat on a plush leather couch, sipping a cup of tea. The years had made her colder, harsher. Her face was still beautiful, but carried an air of bitterness and authority. She had never recovered from losing her son. The trauma had turned her into a woman who trusted no one, especially domestic workers. Mr. Patrick led Noah into the living room and cleared his throat. "Madam, this is the young man applying for the gatekeeper position." Mia looked up, her sharp eyes raking over Noah. She immediately didn't like him. He looked too young, too inexperienced, like someone who would make mistakes. "Name?" she asked coolly. "Noah, ma'am," he said, bowing slightly out of respect. Mia raised an eyebrow. "Where are you from?" "A small village outside Lagos, ma'am. I came here to find work." She scoffed. "No experience, no education, but you think you can work here?" Noah's jaw tightened, but he remained respectful. "I may not have experience, ma'am, but I work hard. I learn fast." Mia leaned back, crossing her arms. "I don't tolerate laziness or stupidity, Noah. If you're careless, you'll be gone before you can blink." Noah nodded firmly. "I understand, ma'am. I won't disappoint you." She stared at him for a long moment, then finally waved her hand. "Fine. You can start tomorrow. But one mistake and you're out." "Thank you, ma'am," Noah said, his heart filled with relief. Little did he know, the woman before him was his own mother, and fate had just placed him back in her life. From the first day, Noah realized working for Mia Williams was not easy. She was cold, impatient, and brutally strict. She yelled over the smallest mistakes, fired workers without hesitation, and trusted no one. One afternoon, as Noah stood at the gate, he overheard two maids whispering nearby. "She's been like this for years," one whispered. "I heard she lost a child," the other said. "Kidnapped when he was a baby. That's why she hates all workers." Noah's heart sank. She lost a child? Something inside him ached for the woman. Maybe she wasn't just mean. Maybe she was hurting. Still, her bitterness made life at the mansion almost unbearable. One evening, Noah was locking the main gate when he heard Mia's sharp voice behind him. "You useless boy," she snapped. He turned quickly. "Ma'am." Mia held up a broken flower pot. "I saw you near the garden this morning. Did you break this?" Noah blinked in shock. "No, ma'am. I swear I didn't touch it." Mia's face twisted with rage. "Liar!" she screamed. Noah stumbled back, his cheeks stinging. A painful silence followed. Patrick and the other workers watched in shock, afraid to intervene. Noah clenched his fists but didn't react. He couldn't afford to lose his job. "I didn't do it, ma'am," he said quietly, his voice filled with controlled pain. Mia glared at him before turning away. "Get back to work." Noah exhaled deeply, swallowing his pride. For his mother's sake, he had suffered worse. He wasn't going to quit now, but fate was already working in the background, pulling him closer to the truth. A week later, Noah was cleaning the garden when he overheard a conversation between Benjamin and Mia. "I still dream about him," Mia whispered. "Our Nathan, wherever he is." Noah froze. "Nathan? I still believe he's alive," Benjamin said. "And one day we'll find him." Noah's heart pounded violently. Something felt strange. He had never known his real parents. Could this be a coincidence? His mind spun with questions. Who were his real parents? Could there be a connection between him and this family? And most importantly, had fate brought him home without him even knowing? It was a humid afternoon in the Williams mansion. Noah had been working for the family for nearly 6 months. Though Mia still treated him coldly, he had learned to endure her harshness. He needed this job, but today his luck ran out. As Noah carried a tray of drinks into the living room for a small gathering, his foot slipped on the polished marble floor. The tray wobbled, and before he could steady it, one of the glasses toppled over, spilling wine onto Mia's expensive white rug. A deathly silence filled the room. Mia's eyes darkened as she shot up from her seat. "You idiot," she spat. "Do you know how much that rug costs?" Noah's heart raced. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It was an accident." "Accident?" Mia's voice rose. In a fit of rage, she slapped him across the face, hard. The room went still. Noah staggered slightly, but did not react. He simply lowered his gaze, swallowing the pain, both physical and emotional. Benjamin, who had been watching from the staircase, felt his stomach twist uncomfortably. He had never thought much about the young gatekeeper before. But now, as Noah stood there in silence, his head slightly bowed, something about him felt familiar. The way he clenched his jaw, the way his fingers twitched when he was trying to hold back emotion. Benjamin had seen that before. It reminded him of Nathan. Months passed, and Noah continued working at the mansion, unaware that Benjamin had started watching him closely. But everything changed one fateful night. Noah was washing his hands outside when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He wiped his hands quickly and answered. "Hello." A neighbor's voice came through, shaky and urgent. "Noah, it's your mother. Olivia. She's very sick. You need to come home now." Noah froze. His heart dropped as panic set in. "I'm coming." He rushed out of the mansion without looking back. Noah ran all the way to their small village, his chest burning from exhaustion and fear. When he arrived, Olivia lay on her small wooden bed, her skin pale, her breathing shallow. She turned her weak eyes toward him and smiled softly. "My son, you came," she whispered. Noah knelt beside her, holding her frail hand. "Mama, don't talk like this. You'll get better, I promise." Olivia gave a sad smile. "No, my boy. My time has come." Tears filled Noah's eyes. "Mama, please." She squeezed his hand gently. "Before I go, I need to tell you the truth." Noah's brow furrowed. "What truth?" Olivia took a deep, shaky breath. "I found you," she whispered. Noah's eyes widened. "What?" "You were not born to me, my son." The words hit him like a storm. What are you saying?" His voice cracked. "I found you," Olivia repeated, tears slipping down her face. "You were just a baby, left in a basket near a dumpster. I couldn't leave you there. I took you and raised you as my own." Noah's head spun. His entire life had been a lie. His mother's breath weakened, but she reached under the bed with trembling hands and pulled out a small, old blanket. It was faded, but the embroidery on the corner was still visible, a golden crest with a W in the center. "I found you wrapped in this," she whispered. "Maybe this will help you find the truth." Noah's hand shook as he held the blanket. His heart pounded as realization set in. He had seen this symbol before, at the Williams mansion. His voice trembled. "Mama, are you saying?" Olivia smiled weakly. "You were always destined for something greater, my boy. Go find where you truly belong." And with that, she closed her eyes forever. Noah screamed. The next morning, Noah marched back to the Williams mansion, his mind clouded with emotions. Anger, confusion, hope. He burst into the living room, gripping the old baby blanket. Mia looked up, startled. "What is the meaning of this?" Noah's voice shook. "I need to talk to you both." Benjamin, sensing something serious, stepped forward. "What's wrong?" Noah took a deep breath and held out the blanket. "Do you recognize this?" Mia's eyes landed on the cloth, and her world stopped. Her hands trembled as she snatched it from Noah, her face turning pale. "This," she gasped, her eyes wide with shock. Benjamin moved closer, his expression unreadable. "Where did you get this?" Noah's throat tightened. "I was found in this 20 years ago, near a dumpster." Mia's legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the couch. No, it's not possible." Benjamin stared at Noah, his mind racing. The similarities, the mannerisms, the feeling of familiarity. Could it be? Noah's voice was strained. "I don't know who I am anymore, but if there's even the slightest chance." He looked Benjamin straight in the eyes. "I need a DNA test." 3 days later, Benjamin sat in his private office, staring at the DNA results in his hands. His fingers shook. His heartbeat roared in his ears. The paper read, "Paternity test result, 99.9% match." He lifted his eyes, meeting Noah's anxious gaze. Noah was his son. Mia clutched her chest, tears streaming down her face. Benjamin finally spoke, his voice breaking. "You're Nathan." Noah felt his entire world shift. He wasn't Noah, the poor village boy. He was Nathan Williams, the lost heir. His mother, his real mother, suddenly sank to her knees before him, sobbing. "My son, my baby, I thought I lost you forever." For the first time in 20 years, Mia's icy heart melted as she clung to him, weeping. Noah stood there, shocked, overwhelmed, yet whole. He had finally found where he belonged. Fate had brought him home. Mia sat frozen, her hands trembling as she stared at Noah. No, Nathan. Her son. Her baby. The same young man she had treated so harshly, humiliated, even slapped, was the child she had cried for, prayed for, and mourned for 20 years. Tears streamed down her face as she fell to her knees before him, clutching the baby blanket he had brought. "My son, my baby," she choked, sobbing uncontrollably. Noah, Nathan, stood still, his heart conflicted. This woman, the same woman who had slapped him, insulted him, treated him like nothing, was now weeping at his feet. He should have felt satisfaction, but instead, all he felt was confusion and pain. I don't know what to say," he whispered, his throat tight. Mia grabbed his hands, her grip desperate. Please forgive me," she sobbed. "I was cruel to you. I was blind. I was lost in my own pain. I hurt my own son." She looked up at him, her face twisted with grief. "Can you ever forgive me?" Noah's chest ached. He had never seen this side of her, the powerful, cold Mia Williams, broken and vulnerable. But was he ready to forgive? Benjamin, standing beside them, placed a firm hand on Noah's shoulder. "Son," he said softly, his voice heavy with emotion. Noah's heart jumped. It was the first time Benjamin had called him that. "We lost you once," Benjamin continued, his voice cracking. "And if you walk away now, we'll lose you again. I can't bear it. We just got you back." Noah swallowed hard, his emotions swirling. Could he just let go of 20 years of pain? Could he really accept this new life? Mia squeezed his hands. "I won't ask for your love overnight," she whispered. "I just want a chance to prove to you that I can be the mother you deserved all along." Noah's eyes burned. He thought of Olivia, the woman who had raised him, loved him, sacrificed for him. And now, here was Mia, the woman who had given birth to him, lost him, and suffered for 2 decades. Slowly, hesitantly, Noah pulled Mia into a hug. Her body shook violently as she broke down in his arms. Benjamin wrapped his arms around both of them, his own tears finally falling. For the first time in 20 years, their family was whole again. While the Williams family began healing, the police had been working tirelessly. With the new leads, they finally tracked down Eric, Sandra, and Paul, the 3 people responsible for destroying a family. The kidnappers were no longer living in luxury. Eric, once the trusted driver, was now a bitter alcoholic, living in a rundown neighborhood. Sandra, the former nanny, had aged terribly, her face hollow from years of regret. Paul, the cook, had lost everything, his family, his dignity, and his freedom. When the police stormed their hiding places, none of them resisted. They knew their past had finally caught up with them. Inside the police station, Benjamin, Mia, and Noah watched as the criminals were dragged in chains. Mia stepped forward, her eyes cold as steel. "You stole my child," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "You stole 20 years from us." Sandra lowered her head, tears streaming down her face. "We were desperate. We thought it was just about money. We never meant for things to go this far," she whispered. Mia let out a bitter laugh. "And yet, when you realized the police were after you, you abandoned my baby like garbage." Eric clenched his jaw. "We paid for it. Look at us. We lost everything too." Mia stepped even closer, her eyes burning with fury. "Yes, but the difference is my son was innocent. He suffered for your greed." She turned to the police. "Make sure they rot in prison." The officers nodded. As the criminals were dragged away, Noah felt a strange sense of closure. Justice had been served. The ghosts of the past were finally laid to rest. Weeks passed, and Noah, now Nathan, slowly adjusted to his new life. At first, it felt strange. Living in a mansion, being called Nathan, being treated like a lost prince. It was overwhelming. But Benjamin and Mia were patient. Mia, especially, was determined to change. She apologized to the workers she had mistreated. She opened her heart more. She had spent 20 years being bitter. Now, she was learning how to love again. One day, as Noah sat in the beautiful garden, Mia approached him hesitantly. "I brought you something," she said, holding out a photo album. Noah took it and slowly flipped through the pages. Inside were pictures of him as a baby, pictures he had never seen before. Pictures of Benjamin and Mia holding him, smiling, happy. Tears welled in his eyes. "We never stopped searching," Mia whispered. "We never stopped loving you." Noah closed the album and looked at her. For the first time, he saw not the cold, heartless woman, but a mother who had suffered. Maybe, just maybe, he could learn to love her back. The end.